Welcome to this Getting Started video for Diverse Science. This is Dr. Shorman, and thank you for purchasing this course. This Getting Started video is designed to help you get the most out of this online e-learning course. So let's go ahead and just dive right in here on what the course is about. And here we are on the course homepage of Diverse Science. And you can see there on the left, there's the main navigation window. And some things to notice is the course is broken up into quarters. And so these are different pages that you can click on. You can see there, I just clicked on 1.1 Science. And that opens up here, and I can go back to the course homepage, and you can see it's broken up into quarters: 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Each of these pages is supposed to be like a week's worth of work, and then there's a review at the end of that quarter, and then quarter 2 is all titled 2.1, 2.2, and so on. Quarter 3, and then down here quarter 4. Now, to the right on the course homepage, there's some important instructions, which I'm assuming you've been reading some, so you're on that third step there on watching the Getting Started video. After that, there's some printable things that you can print or save, and let's just click on that and take a look at that. Several types of files there. If you did not purchase a hard copy, a paper copy of the lab workbook, and you want to, you can purchase that here at this link. And we also have a PDF version. You can just click there and you can save that PDF version to your computer. So that will open up for you in Google Docs, and if you move your mouse around on the screen, this top menu should open and you can click download right there, and it'll download it to your computer. Scrolling down on this page, we also have some fill-in-the-blank lecture notes and lab instructions. Click and print on those. The lab kit instructions, optional, but if your student is doing the lab hands-on with your supplies or our lab kit, it's very important to follow these steps for each lab. And then the optional glossary. I recommend middle school students, they use the digital flashcards to read the definitions, and we'll go over those in a minute. You know, we want to spark interest in science and the amazing handiwork of God with this course, but handwriting all your definitions at this age, probably 7th, 8th grade level is what you're doing, that can extinguish that spark pretty quickly. So if you prefer to write definitions though by hand, you can print that glossary and save it. Now, arrowing back here, clicking that back arrow, we get back to the course homepage, and I'll scroll down a little bit, and right in the middle there you see that schedule and self-paced timed method. Most likely you are using this course, you are homeschooling, and that's one of the beauties of homeschooling is going at your own pace. So instead of doing everything in an assignment in a day, use the timed method where students work on science 4 to 5 days per week for no more than 45 minutes to an hour per day. So at the end of that time, if the lesson is not completed, stop and pick up where you left off on the next day. So parents are often concerned that the student will not work diligently. We found the opposite, and in younger students, especially 7th, 8th grade level, knowing science will take no more than 1 hour. They're free to focus on learning instead of worrying how much longer till I'm done with this lesson. So I encourage you to give that a try for a few weeks. Also keep in mind that upper level courses, they do not really build on this course. In other words, the information about earth science, most of that. So use this as practice for upper level courses where you're learning to take notes, you're learning to do a review that's based off of a whole quarter's worth of work. You're learning to do lab activities that follow the scientific method. So there's some other important resources here like the teacher's guide on that course homepage. Take a look at that too. But let's scroll back up to the top, and then let's go ahead and just look at a week. We'll just start with week 1.1. All of the weeks except for the quarterly review weeks, they're the same. They have 2 lessons within them, 2 lectures. There's a 1.1a, a 1.1b, a 1.2a, a 1.2b, and so on. You'll see there's a lot of consistency. So we'll just look at week 1, and you'll know that all the other weeks are very similar. And you can scroll through this, or we will scroll through this. You can see how it's set up by days: day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And all the assignments for that week, they're organized into these 4 days. Keep in mind our time method though. This is just a guide. Give more time if needed. Like we said, each week it has 2 lessons, a lesson A, a lesson B, and a lab. And each lesson has 4 parts. So there's definitions, and there's facts practice, there's a video lecture, and review questions. So we're just going to go through this day by day, and you can learn about how to do things on each particular day. So first, day 1, we see part 1, rules and definitions. Click on this link to view the definitions flashcards. We want to start with both the term and the definition, the written description of that term, visible. And so if that's not visible, then you go to options and you can click answer with both and X out of that. And so we see there both the term and the definition beneath it. And so you just read through each of these. Hydrosphere, it's the water portion of the earth, and so on. So starting each week with rules and definitions, it's a great way to introduce new concepts before diving in deeper during the lecture. And it's a time-tested and proven method for effective learning used by authors of both the most famous science book ever written, Isaac Newton and his book The Principia, and the most famous math book ever written, Euclid and his book The Elements. So you can see I'm clicking these arrows and just navigating through this. You just want to navigate through, read everything once. Now, once we've read through once, we'll go to options again and click term, X out of that, and now we're going to try to remember the name of that term. So we'll start over here, and so we see that term, and that's Genesis 1:26, but we don't click the arrows, we click on the description there, on the term itself, and see it flips. So it's Genesis 1:26, and then we arrow to the next one, and so that would be applied science. And so you just move through like that. Do this for 15 to 20 minutes. You don't need to memorize these. I mean, obviously it's great if you do, but just become familiar with them, and you'll review them daily. So when you're finished, you can just go back to the assignment page, and let me just scroll down here. You can see it opened in a separate window. Usually that's what it does. If not, you can arrow back using that arrow at the top left, but I'll just X out of that and get back to the week 1.1 page. Back on this page, we want to go to part 2 of day 1, which is facts practice flashcards. For the facts flashcards, we just click on this link. And for this particular one, it's minerals. Again, we want to go to options the first time, and we want to answer with both available there. X out of that. And so we can see the image there and what it is, its name. And one of God's first tasks for Adam, that was to name the animals. You can read about that in Genesis. In other words, God wanted Adam to know his creation really well, right? And one of the first things we do when we want to know a person, plant, a rock, or mineral, it's to know what its name is, right? A true naturalist, that's someone who wants to know God's creation as well as they can. So the facts flashcards, they're designed to help you learn the names of things, like rocks and minerals and weather symbols. Most of them, they have a photo like these do, a photo of something to identify. So you just click on them and see what gold looks like, what silver, what rhodochrosite is, and you learn to distinguish one from the other, just like you distinguish your mom and her name from your dad and his name. So like your rules and definitions, the first thing you do is you just read through them with the name right there next to the image. When you read through them all once, then you'll go to options, answer with term. And so this one, we just click it to flip and see what the type of mineral that one is, galena, and then move to the next one, and so on. Work on this for 15 to 20 minutes. Again, try to memorize them. You don't need to memorize them all the first day. You'll review them, then take a quiz on them on day 4 or 5. And then when you're finished, you X out, or if it didn't open in a separate window, you'll just use your back arrow to go back to day 1. Well, now let's move on to day 2. And we see there part 1 is to review facts, practice, and rules and definitions, and about 10 minutes for that. You can see the links to both of those Quizlet sets are available right there. So then we want to move on to part 2 and watch the video lecture and take notes. And let's just read that. It says, number 1, use the printable fill-in-the-blank notes posted on the course homepage. We talked about those earlier. Number 2, pause, rewind, and fast forward the lecture as needed. Number 3, take good notes as they are used to answer the review questions. The review questions are based off the lecture and the terms and definitions, not the facts flashcards though. So pay attention. One way to pay attention is to write things down, and also keeping in mind that taking good notes is a skill that is acquired over time. It's an essential college skill. Most likely you're a long ways from college right now though. Use those printable notes. That'll help you get used to identifying key ideas and important things from a lecture. And then you can use those notes in your definitions to answer the review questions. So we can just scroll down there a little bit, and here is our lecture. We just click on that and the lecture begins. I went ahead and paused that, but you can see here you can click on this to make it full screen, which is way bigger than my screen right now on the recording, but you can see a bigger version of that. After the lecture, you complete your review questions based on that lecture. So let's talk about completing the review questions. We'll click here, and this is right after lecture 1.1a, so notice this is lesson 1.1a review. Use your lecture notes you just took and your rules and definitions. Before you open the review questions, open the rules and definitions for easy access during the review question. So watch, let me just use the back arrow here, and we'll go open those rules and definitions. We have that window open for easy access, and then we can go back to our course and go down here to review questions for 1.1, lesson 1.1, and there those are. So now we have that window we can easily move over to if we need that to help us. So there's some instructions on this page. You should read through those, and notice that at the bottom it says attempt quiz now. Educatium calls all kinds of recorded grade activities a quiz, but this is not a quiz. It's a learning activity, an opportunity to apply what was learned in the lecture and rules and definitions, which builds understanding. That's why we call it a review. We don't call it a quiz. So don't think of it as some high pressure quiz thing. So let's click on that, attempt quiz now, and also because it is a learning activity here, it's a small percentage of the overall grade. So here's question 1. See that come up, and you can scroll through and see everything if you want to all at the same time. But question 1, you notice it's a multiple choice. You choose an answer by clicking on the bubble next to it, and science is, and I'm going to choose boring, although you better not think that's the right answer. Click submit, and it puts a red X there, says it's wrong. And of course science isn't boring, it's amazing, filled with all sorts of wonders. And notice though how it says that it's not completely wrong, that marks for submission. It says the submission attracted a penalty of 0.1. And marks for submission 0 out of 1, that just means you didn't get it right. But it says if incorrect, please try again. So this time I'm going to say observations of God's creation. Select that, click submit again. That's correct. You have multiple attempts on each question. The purpose of that is because you just finished your lecture. I don't expect you to have everything memorized. It's okay if you mess up. It's not like completely wrong the first try. Again, it's not a quiz. I want you guessing though. If you don't know the answer, move on to the next question. You couldn't find that answer in your notes, in your definitions, move on. Don't spend more than a few minutes stuck on a question. You're going to relearn and correct your notes after you complete this assignment. So we see other multiple choice problems there, and there's also some fill in the blank or short answer problems. And you'll notice on all of those, if there's a word to put in there, correct spelling is required. So type the word in you think is correct, but don't add any extra spaces. And so here, I'll type in pure, and I'm not going to do pure space, 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 space. we'll get confused and count that wrong. So just that word, click submit, and that one was correct. If it was incorrect, I could try it again. For problem 5, I'll type in real and click submit, real science. And that one's wrong. Now, it doesn't matter if it's capitalized or not. That doesn't affect whether it's right or wrong, just spelling. So it has to be the right word, of course, but that's the problem here. That wasn't the right word. Now, multiple choice and those short answer are the main types of problems. There's also some matching problems as well, like this problem 13. And so on there you have to select the right answer for each option. And so you select choose, and so a solid, that would be the geosphere, a gas would be the atmosphere, liquid, the hydrosphere, and space doesn't have any of those. So we click submit there, and that was correct. Now, if during the assignment you need to walk away, you need to stop or pause, you must first click save without submitting. See down there on the bottom left, and log out of the e-learning system. Now, when you're ready to come back to the lesson, then we recommend restarting your computer, log back in, open the assignment, and you'll click continue. Now, we don't really use that submit page button. Don't click on that. Once you've finished everything, though, click submit all and finish here on the bottom right, and then OK there, and your grade will be recorded, and this results page is displayed. Let's talk about this results page. And at the top you can see the time taken, started on, completed on, the grade, and there's that marks 2.9 out of 13. And so there's different ways of grading things. And so like if you did 2.9 divided by 13 times that by 100, that's 22.31. See, that's what that grade is right there as well. So different educators, they want the scores in different methods. So what we normally do is just look at that grade, 22.38. It's a 100-point scale. And obviously that's not a very good score. So if your student did have a really low score, don't retake the practice set. The first attempt is scored as a grade, so you can't just retake it and get a better grade or whatever. It doesn't work that way. The first attempt is the one that's recorded, but instead follow these steps to relearn and correct. So you can see here that there's detailed information recorded for each question and each attempt taken on a question. So you can see there, like on this first one, multiple choice, the observation of God's creation, it has that green check mark next to it, and it says correct. So that means I did that one right, but that's also the correct answer. And here under history of responses, you can see 2 attempts were made on that. Remember, I did it wrong, chose the wrong one the first try, and then correctly the second try. And then when I hit submit all and finish, that was like action number 3. But you can always tell what answer was correct on a multiple choice because it's highlighted green in the results. So like number 2, I didn't even do that one. Notice there's no history of results table, that white table like there was in number 1 with the actions taken, because I didn't take any action on it. But you can still see the correct answer there. So if you really didn't know that one, you'd want to put that in your notes, and then you have that answer in your notes so that when you do your quarterly review, you have all the information from that lesson that's important in your notes. Now scrolling down to short answer here, remember number 4, we got that right the first time, so the first action there was correct. Number 5, we got it wrong, and we stopped. We didn't try again on that one. But notice here's the correct answer. It'll show you what the correct answer is. That's supposed to be applied science. So for short answer, if it's a completely missed, then that correct answer shows up there. And so notice in that table of responses there, that history of responses, notice like if you do miss one, like on this multiple choice, we missed it that first time, then there was a 10% penalty. And so then we got it right the second time, but it's only 0.9 out of 1 total point. So 90% correct on that individual problem. And that's probably more information than you'd ever want to know. It even has like the time that was finished, the time that second attempt was taken, the time the first attempt was taken, everything. Lots of detailed information in there. So if you're looking at your students' results in this and you see a lot of actions, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or something, then that could be an indication that they're guessing. And if their grade is 75% or less, because if they took good notes, if they had their definitions there ready and they knew those well, then the reviews are pretty easy. But if you see lots of actions there, that's an indication that they're guessing. And that's a bad habit that you'll want to address. So for each one of those that was completely incorrect, it says marks 0 out of 1 on there. There's no check mark anywhere, no correct word anywhere. Then those are the ones you want to put in your notes. Also, at the end of the video lecture, there are video solutions. Watch those. That has some extra information as well in there, especially if there's like a math-related problem, a calculation that you didn't understand how to do. Those video solutions will be really helpful for those. So when you're done with that, you can click Finish Review, and it brings you back to this page, and there's information there. You can go back and look at your attempt again if you want to. Parents, you can see any grade anytime. If you go to the course home page, I just click there, you scroll down, you click on Grades. We just did lesson 1.1a. You can see the grade over there to the right. We can click on that. And if there was more than one attempt made, you can see all of those attempts here. We'll just click on that attempt number 1. And look, we're back to all of that information we were just reviewing earlier. So you have all of that access 24/7 anytime you want to take a look at your students' performance. Now, we're back on week 1.1, and we just finished day 2, so let's take a look at day 3. Day 2 and day 3 are super similar. Notice part 1 is review. We see our facts flashcards, our rules and definitions flashcards. Part 2, watch video lecture and take notes. This is lecture B for that week. Then you're going to do review questions 1.1b. You click on that, it's going to open to 1.1b. We'll arrow back. Day 2 is lesson A, day 3 is lesson B. Moving on then to day 4, this is facts quiz day and video lab day. And you see number 1 there, study the facts flashcards. You can study those one more time. Number 2, take the facts quiz. So this is another one of, this actually is a quiz, and it's an Educatium graded item. Notice though, notice the grading method. It says the grading method is highest grade. Read the instructions there, and then you can just go ahead and get started on that, and it'll say if you've done it once, like I have already on here, you can reattempt it. And it says the quiz has a time limit. So remember though, you've been studying this all week, and you can take it again until you get the highest grade. So don't worry so much about the time. You should be ready if you've done what you're supposed to. So you go in, and it's 5 minutes long, and you just start going on through here. Gold, submit, that's correct. Silver, submit, and so on. When you're done, you do the same thing as the reviews. You'll go down to the bottom, you'll click submit all and finish. The save without submitting doesn't really work on this because it's time. So you don't do that on these time things. The only thing to click here is submit all and finish, and you'll do that and your grade will appear. Again, you can review this, see what you missed, and correct that, and then go take it again right away. I mean, it's an easy 100 on this. You review, correct your mistakes, and go take it again. So you take that quiz, it shouldn't take long, and then you do your video lab after that. And you want to watch that video lab and complete the lab manual activity sheet in your lab workbook. So you need that open, and you'll be actively participating in this. Sometimes you even need to pause and make recordings of data off of the screen. Sometimes I'll ask you to make calculations, and you'll want to pause and do those calculations. Then you turn the video back on and check your work. You also have the option to do these hands-on, and there's information on that course homepage that we talked about earlier about that. But It's very straightforward and easy to follow along with this if you're just watching and listening. And like here, I'd want you to measure the water volume there so you can actually do some things. Even if you're just doing a video lab, you can learn how to use, like here, a graduated cylinder to measure a liquid volume. And at other times, using a spreadsheet, this particular lab, and you'll see also on the screen in the video lab, you'll see me put up the actual lab activity sheet, so that helps you know where you're supposed to be in your lab activity sheet. When you complete the lab, you are done with that week. Again, each week, super similar. There's 4 days. We go to week 1.2 there. You're going to see your day 1, your day 2, your day 3, your day 4, and very similar format there. On day 4, you got your facts quiz again and another video lab, and same format week after week. Then when we get to week 8, basically in that first quarter, we have an earth science review. So let's finish up by talking about that. And in our upper level courses, we call these quarterly exams, and you don't get to use your notes and things like that for them. But here, it's a review. We want to treat this like a longer version of one of your other sets of review questions. So it's a homework set, basically, that's based off of all 7 weeks here. So you want to start your week, and you've got the whole week to do this. You want to start by reviewing your lecture notes, your rules, your definitions, facts practice, laboratory activities, and your review questions. You can go back and take your review questions. They don't count as a grade when you take them a second or a third time, but it's just a good way to practice and kind of prove to yourself, do you really have all of this information down? Do you really understand it? Now, if you are treating this like a high school course, and you can see the instructions here, you can treat this review like an exam and don't use your lecture notes, your definitions, or any other outside help on this. So you click on that section 1 review. It's going to pop up just like the other quiz type activities in Educating, like your other graded things. Notice the grading method, average grade. You get to do this twice. So let's say you get an 80 the first time. You correct your mistakes like you've been learning how to do the whole quarter with your review questions, and you take it again. You get 100 the second time. Well, the average of 80 and 100 is 90. So doing it that second time and putting that effort in to correct your mistakes, it's like you get a bonus 10 points on that. So each section review is similar format, just like this one. So you'll use the same study techniques for each one of those. And that is all for this Getting Started lesson. God bless, and I hope you have a great year.